today in Rich in Relationship. We're going to talk about
how to use tech, screens, and AI to create an emotionally intelligent partnership. Technology shapes our relational habits, often unconsciously. It's about taking this thing that's been sucking the life out of you and your relationship, that's been a distraction, and using it to build yourself and your relationship up. Welcome to another episode of Rich in Relationship. I am your host, Rich Heller, and we are talking about creating an emotionally intelligent relationship using technology. That's right. How to use tech as a relationship builder, an expander of emotional intelligence instead of as an escape. And this is a deeper dive into the last episode. If you didn't catch it, please do. This is a deeper dive in how to take the thing, the very thing that seems to be sucking the wind out of your relationship and use it to build it up. Have you ever thought about how the shows, apps, and content that you consume shape the culture of your relationship, or really shape the culture of your own mind and then your relationship? What if you could consciously use screens as tools for connection, for building up emotional intelligence instead of just distraction? Technology shapes our relational habits, often unconsciously. But with mindful use, screens and AI can foster emotional well-being, shared growth, and deeper connection. This episode is all about how to intentionally use tech to build a positive relationship culture. And I want to be clear, the tech isn't going to do it for you. It's about taking this thing that's been sucking the life out of you and your relationship, that's been a distraction, and using it to build yourself and your relationship up. It's about taking something that amplifies where we are coming from. If we are coming from a place where we want to be distracted or where we want a dopamine hit, then technology is the place to go. If we are coming from a place where we want to build ourselves up and grow our marriage, technology will enhance that drive also. This is the positive side of tech. Does your relationship feel intentional or does it feel reactive? Culture in a family is shaped by the small, consistent habits you and your partner practice. And the small, consistent habits, whether they're conscious or unconscious, are going to contribute radically to the feeling, the culture, the values of your family. There's going to be the values that we say that we believe in, and then there's going to be what we actually do. Relational culture reflects shared values, habits, and practices that define how you engage with who, yourself, and with one another. Are your screens supporting or undermining the culture you want to create? And maybe you haven't even given any thought to the culture you want to create. Let's talk for a second about that. Very often in life, we feel so overwhelmed by taking care of our children, providing for our children, showing up at work, that we're barely even taking care of ourselves. We want to get into a space where we're carving out a little time to think about, where are we going? When we fell in love and had this dream of creating a life together, what was the life that we bought into? And you may not, when I ask you that question, not much may come up for you. It might be that you're so entrenched in and overwhelmed that seeing the future is difficult, right? That's not unusual. I get tons of clients who come to me, they're getting ready to get divorced because they're so overwhelmed and they can't even imagine the future because they feel on the top, they feel anger and blame. Underneath that, they feel resentment. Underneath that, they feel hurt. They feel sad. They feel fearful. And when we're in that state, seeing the future is super difficult. So it might be that you're going to need to handle that stuff first. And I want you to feel free to reach out to me if you want help with that. If that's not where you are, consider the following. The more intentional you become about where it is you and your family are going, the more direct the route to that place. If you are crystal clear, for example, that a certain level of sexuality is creating wanderlust in your heart, or maybe it's poisoning your relationship with your partner. You're thinking, why don't we do that? Why isn't it like that for us? It might be that you need to stop watching that stuff. I've worked with youths who watch a lot of sexual content and who have complained that when they actually start having intimate relations with another human being, it never matches up to the fantasy they've created because of what they've been watching. If you're having that experience, what is inevitable over time is that the video experience is going to take the place of real life for you. It becomes very addictive. And there are all kinds of studies on the impact of the dopamine that's stimulated when we watch sexually explicit video. Conscious use of screens means editing out the things that are distracting us from what's important and editing in the things that direct us to what we truly value. Unconscious scrolling can pull partners apart, while mindful content consumption can bring them closer together. If you're feeling stressed or disconnected, screens can help you to cultivate mindfulness and self-awareness. They don't have to be a distraction. There are apps for mindfulness and meditation. There are journaling apps to reflect on emotions and relational triggers. There are AI tools for reminders to pause and practice gratitude. You can create an AI accountability partner to help you with your goals in life. Individual well-being provides the emotional stability needed to nurture relational growth. And so the first step is to get a handle on your own use of tech and refocus it to reflect your values, whether it be social media, whether it be streaming, whether it be AI, whether it be gaming, any way that you're using screens, you can refocus it and use it mindfully. I'll share something personal, if that's okay. Pretty much every child in my household, and they're all grown-ass men and women now, has complained that at one time or another, I did not pick them up on time at school. And inevitably, the backstory on that is I was distracted. I was playing Hearts online. I was working online. I was distracted in some way by screens, so distracted that I lost track of the time. Now, today, I've got an AI in my household, and I can ask it to set alarms. I'm not going to name it because it's in the room and it'll hear me. And I can ask it to set alarms and reminders. I can ask it to cue me in so that I do things in a timely. When I'm in the gym, which is here in the house, and I have a call with a client, I ask that AI to set an alarm for a certain time so that I don't get distracted in the gym for too long and show up for my client, for example. There are ways that we can take the very tools that have been distracting us and use them to keep us on track. Do you want to create stronger bonds? Use technology to support alignment and shared growth. You can do that through shared calendars. You can do that through planning intentional time together. If you're having trouble balancing things out in a shared calendar, you can use an AI, not like the one I have in the room, which isn't that incredibly intelligent, but something more like ChatGPT along those lines to help you prioritize and figure out how to make it work. You could use video resources to stimulate joint learning and conversation starters. You know, we've got over 300 videos. I'm not talking about shorts. I'm talking about podcast videos. We have over 300 podcast videos here on Rich in Relationship, 300 podcasts, either if you're listening on a strictly an audio a podcast, we've got 300 episodes there. You could plan to look at those together and talk about, well, what was good about it? What sucked about it? What could we apply? I'm wondering, do you think that social media could be a tool for connection instead of comparison? We talked in a previous episode about how you can use social media to compare or to celebrate. You can use it to compare yourself to other people, or you can use it to celebrate milestones. There's all kinds of ways that you could positively use social media. My wife and I like to look at ridiculous stuff on social media together. We have a golden retriever addiction. There's a ton of golden retriever videos out there that we'll look at together. The danger, of course, is that we get sucked into that for hours. But if we get sucked into it together, it's better than being sucked into it alone. Are the shows and movies you watch together building your connection or just passing the time? Or are you not watching anything together at all? I want you to think about what streaming services you use and how can you use them. And the trick here is not just the services, but being mindful, not just in the content, but mindful when you're watching it. We mentioned in the last episode, there's a model for screen smarts that my sister Nicole Dreisky came up with. If you treat the content that you're watching together or even separately like it's something you're going to go to a book club together and talk about, you're going to watch it with a whole different mindset than if you're just kind of passing the time. If you're passing the time, your unconscious mind is literally absorbing the images and your conscious mind is somewhere else. If your conscious mind is engaged, it will filter what your unconscious mind absorbs. If you see something that you don't agree with, you will make note of it consciously, and your unconscious mind will pay attention to you making note of it. If you watch with the intent that you're going to talk about the characters, for example, was the character development strong and consistent? What that'll do is that's going to build your emotional intelligence. Studies show that when we read or watch characters and think about who are they, what drives them, what makes them tick, that actually builds our emotional intelligence. And when you take that and talk to your partner about it, that builds it even more. I want you to be really careful about watching shows or movies that are aligned with your values and interests. You might want to dig deeper into those values and interests together. It might be a matter of working with a coach to find out what your values are. It might be a matter of pumping stuff into AI and asking it to identify what your apparent values are. There are different ways to go at this, and get that your values are not always going to be perfectly aligned. That's okay. And at the same time, you want to make sure that whatever you're taking in is aligned with your values. Let me reiterate how important this is. Your unconscious mind is like a freaking sponge. If you're not consciously filtering what comes in, then it just takes root all on its own. So you want to be really careful about what you put in the computer. Use guided questions to discuss themes, characters, or emotional takeaways. Reflect on how the content resonates with your personal and relational experiences. And if something you're watching makes you uncomfortable, don't watch it. Or actually, I would say check out what's the source of discomfort. Sometimes we watch things about people suffering in poverty that make us uncomfortable just because we don't want to think about that. That's totally different than seeing a sexually explicit scene and going, this is a little too much for me. Very different. Choose a movie about overcoming challenges and discuss how its themes apply to your relationship's journey. I would highly recommend the movie Fireproof, by the way. Boundaries are essential. This idea of being careful what we take in, it's really important for us individually. It's really important in the relationship. Boundaries around how and when we take things in are also essential. We want to make sure that we're using technology for connection, not for distraction. Or if we're going to use it for distraction, we want to be crystal clear that that's what we're doing. I'll give you a personal example. I have a very long-term gym habit, and it became very tedious for me. There was a part of me that really didn't like the discipline. It wanted something more fun. And so I started watching television while I did my workout routine. My workout routine got a little longer as a result, because sometimes I would just stop and look. But that other part of me that needed to be amused was amused. And that's a conscious distraction. It's a conscious distraction from a little rebellion against discipline, a little rebellion against mundane repetition, which is what gym time can feel like sometimes. I want you to create tech-free times or spaces, like during meals or before bed, or especially on date night, I want you to limit passive scrolling by scheduling intentional screen time. Technology can shape your relationship culture positively when used with intention. If you want to build more romance in your relationship, watch more romance. If you want to build more positivity, watch more positive content. If you want to eliminate conflict, negative conflict, stop watching negative conflict action films, for example. Watching things get blown up, etc. There's, in small doses, might be a way to release some of the anxiety and tension that you're experiencing. Watching it all the time actually builds up the need to be explosive. So just be careful what you take in and how. Use the screen smarts approach. Make sure that you're paying attention. Make sure that you're looking at the development of characters. You're identifying what's happening in the plot. You're identifying the moral and the values that's being espoused. There are some shows that may have morals and values that are not in alignment with yours, and you're going to want to stop watching them if that's going on. Choose one tech habit to shift this week, whether you're starting a mindfulness app or whether you're going to take AI and journal and examine emotional patterns. I want you, if you like what you're hearing here, if this is new and different and vital for your relationship, I want you to subscribe and share this with other people. And in Exit 18, we're going to talk about actually aligning values and using screens and AI to bridge differences in priorities. In the meantime, have a wonderful day and an amazing tomorrow.